Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Teaching with Tim. And this is our second video in a series about aspiring teachers and the limitations that they can feel both from the external and their internal world. And today we're talking about negative public image. So, in the United States of America, teachers have a really negative public image, and it can be really hard to overcome that when you're an aspiring teacher. If we look at this map here too, this shows the percentage of students in that state that are homeschooled. So you can see in liberal states like Massachusetts, like Illinois and California, these states are have the lowest prevalence of homeschooled children. And then some of the most conservative states like Tennessee, Montana, and Alaska have some of the highest percentages of homeschooled children at above 9%. And that's an amazing statistic. Do you think if you go into Alaska, 1 in 10 children are homeschooled? That's an incredible amount. And then even if you look at kind of moderate states like Georgia, Florida, um, Pennsylvania, those are kind of like middle of the road in terms of homeschooled percentage. And so there is clearly a correlation between how conservative the state is and how many families choose to homeschool in that state. And then if you look over to Europe, um, you can see all the countries in red don't even allow homeschooling, let alone have like 1 in 10 of their children be homeschooled. It's only allowed in very rare circumstances in places like Greece, Spain, the Netherlands, and Germany. And even where countries where it is allowed, like the UK and Ireland, the rates are much lower than in the United States. So, what can we draw from this? What we can draw from this homeschool data is that Americans, by and large, especially in conservative states like Tennessee and Alaska, are really proud of parental rights. They believe that it's the parents' rights to talk to their children about controversial topics and not the government's. And we need to respect that. However, it gets to the point where it becomes so extreme and even uh, totally inappropriate in cases like school board meetings. School board meetings are have become like places where the American culture war is on full display. And I want to show you a clip of that from Loudoun County in Virginia. It would say a county in Virginia near Washington D.C. And so it's more liberal than the rest of Virginia, but a conservative influencer named Matt Walsh went there and really kind of it shows us how serious the culture war can get. And so it's good to watch, and then we'll talk about it after.
You are all child abusers. You prey upon impressionable children and indoctrinate them into your insane ideological cult. You are poison. You are predators. You can only hide under your beds like pathetic little gutless cowards, hoping we shut up and go away. But we won't. I promise you that.
So, just in 15 seconds there, and albeit I did edit it down from about a minute, he called the school board members poison, predators, gutless cowards, and abusers. And all this had to do with um, a transgender issue. And you can see, like, conservatives just become rabid almost, like, when, when it comes to parental rights. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we as teachers can navigate this culture war. But first, I want to show you that the school board members are not this liberal extreme group either. If you look at this graph in the yellow green, it shows the percentage of school board members that are in a different political affiliation. So if you look at Democrat, there's 55% of the school board members identify as Democrat, whereas in the general population, only 43% of the general population are Democrats. And so there is a little overrepresentation, but it's not an extreme amount. If you look at other groups like conservative, they're underrepresented in the school boards, but they're not they still exist. And even in the moderates on the school board are overrepresented. And you can also look at different identities. Uh, White races are overrepresented in the school boards, black races are unrepresented, Hispanics are unrepresented, females overrepresented. And then when you get into the education, the 4 year college degree and the postgraduate degree are way overrepresented. So only 14% of Americans have a postgraduate degree, but 46% of the school board members have attained that level of education. And also, 25% of the school board members are either current or former teachers, whereas only 3% of the general public are current or former teachers. So when Matt Walsh was talking to the school board members there, he was really talking to teachers, and so that's the kind of battle that's ahead of you if you want to be if you're an aspiring teacher, and we need to talk about how to deal with that. And then here you can see um, the controversial topics. So school board members are they overemphasize the local school quality, and that's because they're by and large sourced from local schools, so that makes sense. They're less in favor of charter schools than both Republicans and Democrats. They're less in favor of teacher unions than Democrats. Um, and they're actually more conservative on identity issues than uh, Democrats. So that's another important example of how the school board members are not just some uh, extreme liberal group the way that they're portrayed as. So the solutions to navigate this culture war are to just not see yourself as an activist and also avoid hot button issues when possible. If there's no problem, don't go create a problem. So to stop being an activist, you need to understand your biases. And one of the ways you could do that is to take an implicit bias test. You can talk to parents and understand their perspective and try to reason with them, try to uh, respect their beliefs. But there are times in education where you do actually have to affirm something, even if you don't believe in it. So, for the example, say a child has same sex parents, it doesn't really matter what your spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs are about that. Same thing if you have a transgender child in your classroom. It doesn't so much matter what your take on gender ideology is, because you were entrusted with that child's education and their safety, and that is always a priority no matter what you believe. But it actually goes the other way too. Teachers usually skew more accepting more liberal, um, more Democrat than the general public, and which is good. But the general public doesn't skew that way. You will teach families that are blue collar workers, that are Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, all kinds of religions, Sikh, and some of these people could have very conservative beliefs, and you don't have to agree with them. It's like the same thing. You just have to. You're not an activist. You're a teacher, and so you have to be not cross that boundary, but also you also have to prevent discrimination, like how I mentioned earlier. And then you can also avoid hot button issues. So you can look through the curriculum and you'll know when something controversial could pop up. And you can inform parents about that, like, we're going to be talking about this in class. I just want to let you all know that I affirm your rights as parental rights. And that's what it always goes back to, is just like respect the parents' beliefs and rights. And if you're in a state like Massachusetts, you probably won't have to deal with this too much. But in other places, you are going to have to deal with people who could believe completely different things than you. And I want you to be prepared for that. And the other thing I was thinking about too is that even if you do agree with a parent about a specific issue, usually the parent would prefer that they are the ones to talk about controversial topics with their children. Because although you might have the same opinion, you might have different qualifiers. Like, a lot of parents, when they talk about controversial topics with their kids, they will qualify the information um, with their own beliefs uh, and their own traditions. And so that even if you do agree, it's still the parents' right and responsibility to introduce controversial topics. So that's all I have to say about this topic. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.